So, without further ado, and also I am really big into just game design, so as usual I'll be talking a lot about like what I feel about what I'm seeing. So I love the fact that I just started it up and, oh wait, oh I can unletterbox it. Here we go, or whatever it's called, pillar box. There. I like how there's no menu per se, that the actual mechanic for starting the game is part of the game mechanics. It's not start game here, options menu here, or things like that. I have not played this before, actually. I know the game Hook, like, oh yeah, I love Peter Pan, yeah. Maybe streaming some Peter Pan. Or whatever. Okay. So when I click the dot, it makes the opposite end sort of burn down like a fuse or something. Okay, let me... Oops, let me turn down... God. Okay. Interesting. Oh, very nice pacing. So now this is the challenge. So everything is reeled in. All right. Also, Shalag in chat. So have you played this one before? It was on the top of, what was it? Like, indie game puzzle recent releases or something like that. And it was just $1, or not even $1. I think it was like 75 cents. Oh, failure. And I won't be doing just this one the whole time. The game that I'm going to do after this is a whole lot more challenging, probably. Not to say this isn't challenging. So far, it's pretty simple. So it's basically when all of your headphone USB cables and crap all get tangled in your pocket. This is a puzzle inspired by that. Puzzle game. Wait, no. Trying to figure out the depth. So if something is intersecting like this, does this mean it's on top or below it? Like if I... Oh, it does get stuck. Okay. So what about this direction, though? If I do this... Okay, it gets stuck over that way. So there is no depth. Everything is on the same plane. There's no overlap, I guess I could say. So... I am actually awful at puzzles, so I don't really consider myself a puzzle game person, but I'm trying to like engage my mind a little bit, so I got a whole bunch of just puzzle games that I'm trying to do. Like actually on my desk right now is a Rubik's Cube. I always thought one of these days I should figure out how these things work and to actually get good at doing it. And I did a while back, like a few months ago, figured out slide puzzles, because that's always the dreaded thing. People are like, oh, I hate slide puzzles, they suck. But then I remember that my mom had bought me a slide puzzle a really long time ago, this really satisfying metal one. You can listen to this right here. It's the sound of moving the metal parts of it. So it's very tactile, just nice puzzle to play with physically, but it is just a slide puzzle. It's like a 4x4, and I just sat and played with it for a very long time, and I figured out how they work. So it's like once you figure out the underlying mechanics of something like a slide puzzle, and then you can apply that thought process to everything else. So where I'm tying all this in here is that I'm finding about myself is that for games or any sort of mental challenge that you want to put yourself to, that it's more that in order for it to be engaging and to keep your attention, there's more to it than just the task at hand. There's all the things surrounding a puzzle that convince you that it's worth the struggle to solve it. And thank you for the follow, Norix. So if this slide puzzle that I have in my hand that you can't see but you can hear, if this wasn't made of this metal material and it was satisfying to push pieces around and is small and convenient, I would not care about doing it at all. I saw another slide puzzle that was at a store somewhere that was just kind of made out of cheaper plastic, and the pieces really stuck, and they're just all colors, they weren't numbers or anything like that. It's the exact same concept, the same way to solve it and everything, but because the experience of doing the solving was satisfying, I actually felt like I wanted to solve it. And I think that same kind of concept applies to a game too. Like this exact idea of intersecting pieces, and you push buttons in order to pull them back in and all of that. That could easily be portrayed in many different ways, but because they've taken into account not only the audio that's playing in the background, but just the simplicity, the appearance, the choice of color, and all things like that, all convince your mind, or mine anyway, that it's worth trying to solve. So I've never really thought about that before, because I normally hate puzzle games and just puzzles, but now developers are starting to catch on to the fact that it's more than just solving something. It's like it's being in, it's like priming you to get ready to, I don't know, I can't think of how to describe it. But anyway, that was my thought process. And So let's see what happens without further ado. Alright, so the game just taught us that is more than just one button pulling in one end of something. You admit that you forgot how to solve Rubik's Cube, never figured it out. Honestly, it's super freaking difficult. I agree. I am not one to be like, I refuse to look at a guide and then just I have to figure it out myself. I'm more than happy to look at a guide, but it's like, when I was reading up about how to solve a Rubik's Cube, it sounds like the underlying concept is that you have to know, what is it? It's like 8 different series of movements that you need to know. I don't think it was 8, maybe it was like 6 or something. And you solve everything by using one of those 6 series of movements. So I used to think that, oh, someone just puts it in their hand, they see the color, then here's the Rubik's Cube. And they just rotate things around and move it around and they just know how to do it from there. But it's actually that you gain the muscle memory to know that, oh, if I need to get this piece in the corner to appear on the opposite side in the same corner, okay, there's one of 2 different combinations of movements I need to do to solve that. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, that didn't work. Okay, reset. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, that did it. So then they just have all that memory trained and then they just do it all. So it's definitely going to be way more challenging than I thought it was going to be. I can get 2 sides almost filled out, or almost consistently one color, but that's about it. Up. Rubik's Cube made of ice. So you would, what would be the extra challenge? So it'd be like, you have to solve it before it melts. So it's like a environmental hazard. No, an organic time restriction on the puzzle. Balls. Okay, okay, so this is gonna pull all of these in. There we go. You would have already failed the puzzle twice. It is funny how this kind of puzzle actually does sort of translate to when you're untangling something. It's like you have multiple cords that are all tangled and you're trying to follow one end to its other end, like one part of the USB cable to the other side, and you're trying to see, okay, so do I have to pull this part over here and then like unwind it over in this way, but I don't want to tighten this too much. And I'm probably not going to be playing this the whole time. Like, I don't feel like I need to finish this before I move on. Once I start feeling like I'm getting bored, then I'll move on to the next one. The next game that I'm going to play is a lot more about, it's about sort of, it's like a language puzzle, but it's all a fake language. You learn that, I think it's based somewhat on how English works, but it's a made-up language in the game that consists of symbols, and you have to figure out what is being said based on bare minimum knowledge of how this fake language translates to English. And it's a game called Scythian. Never realized you're being tricked into playing a chord untangle puzzle. Okay, so if I I think the kind of the way that this sort of thing should be solved is that you just go dot by dot and see, if I were to pull this, would anything conflict? So if I push this, nothing would conflict because everything slides out how it should. But this second one would get stuck. This third one would get stuck. This would also, because of up here, this would, okay, so I definitely have to start here. That unlocks. They're all connected. Wait, that, and then the circle shows you that these are connected, so it's not connected to this. I'm just thinking aloud. Did I play? No, I'm planning on trying to play Scythian tonight, Electric Eel. That was your recommendation. I think you said KOI played it or something? But it looked really cool, so I'm looking forward to trying it. I've only opened it, just see if I could get it to work. Oops. God, I keep... so if I pull this, that will get stuck by this. If I click this, this will work. And the sound effects and something like this are pretty important too, because it feels satisfying. Oh, hello, Jetosato. You feel like you're reading schematics. It's true. You would have thought that I was a puzzle kind of guy. I guess just because of how like methodical I usually am, what types of games I usually go for. I guess I'm just really weird like that. I'll explain in a sec. I want to see what happens here. Okay, so I knew that I could click this because I watched the trailer, and I remember that I could do that. So I guess they're communicating that this is clickable through reuse of a circle shape. That's the only way I think I would have maybe, because otherwise I'd be clicking all of these and like nothing's working. Or maybe that's their thought process, is the fact that you could have clicked everything and none of them would have moved, or none of them would have like completed. And then you're like, I don't know what to do, and then you start clicking. So I guess they don't intend you to go through this without making mistakes. And I love that kind of thought process where it's like, we want you to make mistakes, but we're gonna make it gentle on you. Cool. You thought I would have been a puzzle kind of guy? Well, that happens a lot in my life where people, I mean, I'll kind of surprise myself. Like I'll find things that I would not have thought I would have enjoyed like years ago, but then it just takes one good experience with something that I normally wouldn't like to convince my mind that maybe I would actually like it. Like for example, one thing that I like to bring up all the time is that growing up, I never really cared about cooking or making food of any kind. I just kind of took for granted everything that was there. I would just, if someone had prepared food for me, I would just take it, or then as I started getting my own, relying on myself to make stuff, it was never really that interesting. But once I started playing the game Project Zomboid, that this is a weird story. It's like that game has a bunch of specific ingredients that you need in order to make something, and it's more of like a survival situation where it's like, I can make more nutritious food if I get these kinds of ingredients compared to just taking the one can of food and eating that. I can collect the ingredients and put them all in a pan and then find an oven and then make. So that just like flipped a switch or something in my mind that thought maybe cooking in real life could actually be fun. And then so I started reading about the real world way of cooking things and how nutrition works and how like what ingredients contribute to meeting what nutritional value. then all of a sudden I was like, oh my God, cooking is actually a lot more enjoyable than I thought. It's like it's a puzzle in itself. It's like a satisfying way of solving a like organic puzzle. Like your body is a sounds like what's the word, like Kama Sutra or something, but like your body is a puzzle that you're trying to solve by giving it the right amount of exercise or nutrition or ingredients or all of that. But it's like a puzzle or a game designed in a weird, I don't know. You can probably understand what I'm trying to say, but so I can already tell that I have to intentionally stop these from connecting, so I can pull that out. Oh my God, there we go. It's actually how you got interested in cooking as well. Oh, I'm glad I'm not alone. Fork plus food equal mouth. See, that's the first puzzle growing up when you're a child. I mean, like the human brain loves to be correct. And that's like blanket statement that could apply to just everything in life, is that you think something should be a certain way, and when you're given proof that it is indeed that way that you thought, it is such a satisfying feeling because you're like, I did something right. Good night, Cereves. I'll still call you Cerevo. Let's see. So I could also just interchange the word puzzle with game. And that's part of why I've enjoyed how I make myself enjoy something I didn't think I would enjoy, is by like gamifying it. I don't know if it's gamify, but if you can turn some thing that you don't like into a challenge similar to something that you do like, you can convince yourself that it's worth doing. Because normally in games, like what I'm doing right now, I don't really like puzzles for the sake of puzzles. Like I've never been a fan of just sitting down and doing Sudoku or crossword puzzles. I mean, I might do a maze or something, or a word find, but I've never liked that. So, but then when I realized that same type of puzzle can be portrayed in a lot of different ways, like, like we're doing right now with like music and visuals and things that are appealing, or it can be like, I don't know, if you play like a Zelda game or something, like there'll be word puzzles that are in a more game-like form that has a story that goes along with it. It's just like the challenges that make up a game have been around forever. It's just developers are putting different visuals, different audio, a story, giving you other ways to experience the same types of things. I don't know, I just sit and think a lot, if you couldn't tell. My God. I'm liking the direction this is going. This is cool. I've never completed Sudoku yet, so I don't really know. I've attempted to sit down and do it, but it's like, I start getting frustrated. But maybe that I'll have a slide puzzle epiphany. I guess that's a word I should be applying here too. It is sort of like an epiphany. When I learned that I liked to cook, it took a video game to convince me that cooking was fun, and that was my epiphany. So maybe I'll have a Sudoku epiphany that I'll suddenly enjoy doing it. Love the chillness of my streams, thank you. I think linguistics is a puzzle for sure. Yeah. Things like substitution and ciphers. Wait a minute, Shalag. Are you from the Battlefield Easter egg Discord by chance? I'm just curious. Because these days I'm starting to get viewers from a weird variety of places. It's hard to like keep in line like, oh, okay, that person's from there, that person's from there. Like communities that have nothing to do with one another are like converging on my stream. Okay, you're not from there. That's cool though, because on the Battlefield Easter egg Discord, we talk about ciphers constantly. And that's something that is another situation where I never thought I would enjoy learning about ways that messages can be encoded or be encrypted. There's lots of different ways for it. I never thought I would enjoy that until developers started hiding them in Easter eggs in their games or ARGs. So that's what it took to convince me that that was interesting. If I just had a textbook and I was sitting in history class in 8th grade and I read, oh, during World War I, so-and-so developed this method of enciphering text so that it wouldn't be, I'd be like, boring, this is dumb, because just reading something in a book usually isn't a good way to convince me that I would enjoy something. But it took a video game to tell me that, hey, this is actually cool. And that's like why I learned Morse code. It's because I kept seeing Morse code all over the place in puzzles for video games, some types. And in Morse code is one of the most misinterpreted things in these ARGs and stuff like that. So I thought I should learn how to do this really well so that I can actually be an expert on this and contribute something that the average person would not be able to contribute. So like I spent weeks just practicing Morse code until I could just memorize it and listen to it. And it's actually been paying off for some of this Easter egg stuff. Okay, wow, okay, so I know I gotta do this one first. This should work. Wow. Sweet. Isn't there a StarCraft 1 unit? It's like a Protoss unit. And you click on it and he goes, sweet. I seem to remember that as a kid when I played StarCraft 1 a lot. Cool. You can read Erozine in Final Fantasy XIV and Cretan Guild Wars 2 for no reason other than it's fun. I mean, I've learned how to read Japanese out of boredom, basically. That's a good reason. Started watching you after your amazing tour of GTA 5 Easter eggs. Well, I'm glad you liked that. I can even read Korean, but can't understand it. Glyphic languages are just so cool. I agree. This game looks interesting. Yeah, so like I took a year of Russian language in college, and I never would have thought I would have taken that. Like I mean, I hear a lot of people say this, especially my fellow Americans, but that we're not really forced, or we're not around very many other languages when we grow up. So we don't just naturally acquire lots of languages. I mean, Mexico is by us, and I mean, the US is quite a mixture of lots of different cultures, different languages, but especially here in the Midwest, where, we're like 3/4 European descendant English speaking people, you just don't really, you're not exposed to other languages. So I just feel so bad that I don't natively know anything else other than English. So when I took 3 or 4 years of Spanish in high school, I just didn't like it. Because I was like, oh, this is a chore. I had to learn it in order to just get through high school. And I didn't acquire much of it. I didn't keep much of that knowledge. And so, did I do it right? Okay. But then now looking back that I'm out of college, or I've been out of college for like 7 years now, and I'm just like, I should have listened. I should have acquired or kept all of that knowledge of Spanish. What a waste of 4 years. I mean, I can read Spanish and kind of understand some of it, but if someone speaks it to me, like I won't know anything. So I guess that it's kind of like a commentary on the schooling system. It's like not everyone learns the same way, and it's kind of a shame that there isn't enough money and time and people who care to make schooling appeal to everyone individually. I guess that's part of like public schooling, is that you don't, like, you're taking that risk that you're just gonna have to learn stuff just to pass, because it's generally how people learn. Not really how you learn, but you just have to deal with it. I'm kind of surprised I've managed to solve some of these while talking at the same time. You hated Spanish class, your teacher was terrifying. Well, that's another thing too. Like, the teacher or the professor makes all the difference in the world. In other countries, you have, or what do I say? Meanwhile, in other countries, we have to learn English to do other stuff. Yeah, so it's like if you don't natively know English, many countries force you to learn English. But, you know, me knowing English natively, there's a much smaller chance that I'm going to be forced to learn anything else, because I'm just like lucky to have been born to know the language that the world is being forced to learn. You really like science, but you're terrible at math, so it's hard to learn science stuff for me. Yeah, I mean, it takes the right person and the right method and just a lot of factors to convince your brain that this knowledge is worth acquiring. That's kind of the theme of tonight, is what does it take to convince you to learn? And I really like the fact that there's only 2 colors in this game. If this stuff was just unnecessarily colored, I'd feel like, is that a part of the puzzle? It would be too many steps for me to think about. So this lets me think purely about point A to point B. And I am a major minimalist. The simpler something is, the more I enjoy it. Another side of me too is that, like, with game design, I'm trying to think of how you'd program something like this. I'm sure there isn't any actual physics happening here. It's not saying, oh, these things collided, so it's incorrect. It's probably just every clickable region here has a bunch of states, and there's only a certain amount of states, or there's only one possible state that is the correct one. Or maybe it checks and says, like, okay, every clickable thing is in a certain state, so when this is clicked, check the state of everything else, and if they're all correct, then play the animation of it successfully completing, or something like that. All right. It is like learning programming. Now, the language of love, Shillog, is one of the most difficult ones to learn. It's not one that's taught anywhere, and everyone speaks it in a slightly different way. So if you can understand someone's accent and they try to speak in that language, then you can actually start communicating and learning more about them. There are a lot of these sort of puzzle games that have a much bigger influence on programming. Like, there's some that are just straight up assembly code puzzles. And I was thinking of actually streaming that one. I can't remember what it's called, but I don't know. That looked vastly complex. Like, I don't even know. Is this a self-help class? This is a mono stream. My streams are rarely completely about the game that I'm playing. Like, I don't do Let's Plays. I do, like, the game is like a PowerPoint presentation that's happening in the background while I speak about other things. Speaking of which, I was actually asked recently if I'd like to give a brief panel presentation at a convention about Easter eggs in video games. It's a very small convention, so it isn't anything profound, but I don't think I'll be able to do it because I'm actually going to help create one of the components of the convention for a virtual reality thing, and I'll be like on the floor managing that the whole time. I don't think I'd have time to come up with a presentation, but I don't know. It's funny, like, it's hard. It's been a struggle for me to find a full-time job, but I'm having all these like random little gigs that come up that don't pay enough to keep me sustained, but they're just like really cool little opportunities that have been coming up. It's not to say that I'll never get to speak about Easter eggs in games. It's just that, or never have another chance. I might be able to figure something out with this, because the guy who asked me if I'd like to is someone who was involved with the some of the Battlefield 4 Easter eggs, really big ones that got lots of media attention. So if anyone here has connections to Minneapolis, and you know anyone who's looking for a web designer, front-end developer, virtual reality, some game design, some video editing person who can do lots of just random stuff like that, and they're hiring full-time, you should let me know. In Minneapolis, though. I basically applied to every company I could find, so kind of playing the waiting game. Okay, so this goes to here, this goes to here, this goes over, boom. This goes here, that. Alright, so I can't really go wrong for the rest of these. There's no intersecting parts. Oh. So now I'm thinking that if I gave a presentation on Easter eggs in games, like, what would I say? Oh, thanks for the follow, Onar. I never not have something to say, as you all are well aware of. It's more, how could I format it in a way that keeps people interested? Because when I watch other people present about things, I'm always thinking in my mind, in kind of a douchey way, I'm thinking like, oh, I could have presented that same information better. Which, you know, I don't vocalize that opinion ever. I mean, if the person asks, how could I improve a presentation, I'd probably give some advice, but that always is just sort of encouraging to me. I'd be thinking like, you know, it helps you think about how you would present something, how you would speak in front of a group. If you can critique someone else's attempt at it and think, how would you have done that differently? That's like a valuable skill to have. But then there's also like tact. You talking about Oxenfree's audio Easter eggs and ARG got me to play the game. Nice. I remember that stream. Oh, it feels like so long ago. That was a little spontaneous too, so it wasn't very structured well. But I think part of what people like in Twitch streams are the more spontaneous things. People don't come into here expecting, you to be dressed in a suit on a podium with the presentation. People want this sort of unprofessional side of streams. And I like how the difficulty of this is very shallow, like it's just rising ever so slightly. I appreciate it. Hey, this is the one from the trailer. The challenge from the trailer. For some reason, just the way this is designed sort of reminds me of picking locks in real life. And just to sound like a badass for a while, because I like just acquiring lots of just weird random skills. I just got a padlock, like a very simple, just a key locked padlock. Just had it sitting on my desk and then had some paper clips by it. And I just, when I was reading something online or watching a stream or whatever, I would just pick it up and just fiddle around and see if I could figure out how to pick the lock. And I eventually figured it out. So like I can pick really simple locks. And it's just a cool thing that the average person doesn't really think a lot about. It's like, how do locks work? It's something we all have experience with just about every single day. Like if you drive a car, the doors lock. And we just, society has told us that I shouldn't question how this works. If I can't get into it and I don't have a means to unlock it, then I should not be questioning whether or not I can unlock it. So no, I'm not admitting to a crime. I would never break into anything that isn't my own. But knowing how that system works is really cool to me. So if there's ever a zombie apocalypse, you know where to go. But I have a feeling in a zombie apocalypse, people would just carry around bolt cutters instead of trying to pick something. Just sledgehammer your way through anything anything that stops you. Yeah, I think I'll just do like 3 or 4 more of these and then I'll go on to the next game. I'm not sure how many more there are. How many more puzzles there are. And if any of you missed what I said at the very beginning, I was originally going to stream this pretty spooky puzzle game. I mean, I shouldn't call it a puzzle game, it's just a cool... What is the name of it? Let me just get the name. Stories Untold. Well, there's 50 total puzzles, okay. And the later ones get quite expansive. Yeah, I don't think I'll go all the way through. Oh my god. This is already kind of tricking me. Yeah, the game's Stories Untold. I'm gonna try to stream that possibly this Friday or Saturday, because I love the appearance of it, and the sort of puzzles that you're solving are really cool looking. Like, they've nailed the atmosphere and the way that you interact with it. And it was based on another game, which I think was like a game jam game that a lot of people played, where it's like you're sitting at a desk and you have an old computer and you're doing like a text adventure. And as you progress in the story, your environment starts changing as well. Please stream forever and always. Well, if I could turn this into a full-time job. One that Vinny played? Yeah, I think it is. Yeah, he did play it. But this is like the full version. And that is only a piece of the bigger game. And the whole game isn't that way. The whole thing isn't a text adventure kind of thing. It's like it starts that way, and then it gets into 3 other segments that have their own conventions and stuff. Glad you enjoy it, Tlytalk. I think that's how I pronounce it. Can pull that over. But how do I do? That's gonna fail it because that will intersect with that. But I can't pull the bottom one because it'll intersect with that. So how do I just get that one out? Yeah, Shalag, that's the catch-22 or whatever that phrase is. The Avianite, it was that game. It was short, but this is the full version that I'm gonna try to stream that came out just like a week ago. And then that's only one piece of the bigger game. And the whole thing isn't text adventure. That's just how it starts. Okay, I'm just gonna trial and error. Nope. So this is Abstract Puzzle Game. This is one of them. The one I'm gonna do after this is even more abstract, if you can imagine. I think the version that Vinny played of the other game I'm talking about was the like Game Jam version. That was like their first attempt to see if anyone would enjoy it, and it seemed to have been really well received, so they made a full version. What am I not doing right here? What's funny about this game is like you all as members of the chat, your only voice is text, and I'm trying to solve something here that has no text, no numbering. It's all just lines and just abstract shapes. So like if someone were to explain how I would solve this, it would take like paragraphs to say like, okay, click the circle thing so that it goes from the left to the bottom, and then other one with the 3 lines should be with the part in the top and the left, and then you click the dot and then because I know for sure I have to pull this one out. Oh, I just have to... Oh my god. That was easy. GG, easy. Game Jam games are your favorite thing ever. One of the few full games I've ever played that have retained that sort of interesting simplicity has been Titan Souls, when I can remember. Yeah. Like, gotta keep in mind, too, that when you're streaming, anyone who streamed knows this, is that your brain is divided when you're trying to play something that's mentally challenging and stream at the same time. If I was just sitting here alone, not streaming, playing this, I probably would almost be to the end already. But it's like trying to keep both halves of your brain running at the same time. You lose some of your brain power. What is my favorite classic point and click? Well, my answer to that is almost 100% nostalgia. I don't think I would enjoy it if I played it again. But I really enjoyed Indiana Jones and the Fate of Atlantis. And that's because it was like the first story-driven game I can even recall that I had ever seen as a kid, and my brother played all the way through it, and I watched him play through it, and just all that time that was spent trying to complete that game. And there's a lot of memorable moments and just funny, because like LucasArts is just incredible at putting so much personality into so few pixels, and this game is no exception. Okay. So I gotta do this one first. Right. Does age so well, no lie. Maybe I should revisit. I own the game on Steam. I don't know if I feel like playing all the way through it, because it's a really long game. At its core, you're an entertainer. Even if it's super casual, you're still attempting to generate interest. Yeah. Yeah, people underestimate how much focus it takes to play and stream and do all that simultaneously, definitely. For me, I think my top 3 point-and-click games would be The Sorcerer, The Longest Journey, and Siberia. I think I watched a playthrough of The Longest Journey. I don't remember exactly what it was about. My god, what is happening here? Well, let's just see what happens. Wow. Okay. Oh, so everything has to move simultaneously is, I think, the challenge here. You can't move just any one piece. Nice. Great, now things are going to get so much more complicated. Point and clicks are a bit of a lost genre. They were out of style before you were born. Oh, I don't think any game genres just disappear. It's just that the mechanics are portrayed in slightly different ways. Like, One example I like to give, which I actually don't hear many game journalists or people talk about, is how there's all these complaints about like how the FPS genre has been dumbed down and it's just so simple and brainless these days. When I think what people are confusing is that rail shooters have merged with first-person shooters, or not necessarily merged, but they've been running parallel to one another because they're both first-person games, types of games, but their mechanics at its core are different. Like when people say, "Oh, Call of Duty, the single player, it's just so brainless. You just go from point A to B, and it's just all linear. You don't have to make any decisions or anything." But I think that's because it's more of a rail shooter. It's kind of like the old classic games, like Time Crisis or House of the Dead, or those ones where you don't have to make any decisions about where you go. It's all about shooting things at the right place and the right time and enjoying just crazy special effects and over-the-top stuff happening. So I don't think that FPSs have just become dumb, as people say. I think it's just that other genres of older games are starting to converge and run parallel to one another. So I would liken like Call of Duty single player as being more of a rail shooter at its roots, but then games that were more complex, like the original few Doom games were kind of like that, where it wasn't just go from beginning to end. There was a lot of optional paths, and you could go and to get keys and bring them to other places. There's a little bit of a challenge, or like Duke Nukem 3D had a lot of other things that had to be done. But I don't think that type of game is lost. It's just that like developers have seen that there's more interest in one type than another. And then the more types of people that are brought into gaming who never used to play games, they haven't already seen and done a lot of what some of us who grew up with games have already done. Like, I'm sure you could show the original Mario Brothers from the NES to someone who's too young to have had it be a part of their childhood, who grew up, I don't know, playing Minecraft or something, and that's their first game. You could show them the original Mario Brothers, and they'd probably be like, "Oh, this is new and interesting. I've never seen this before," and they might enjoy it. So it's like you gotta remember that we all started at different points with our exposure to video games. So it doesn't mean that like if you didn't have an NES as your first console system, that you've just missed out completely and you're just destined for failure in your taste of games. It's just like, your taste in games branch out from where you started. And it does, I know where it just breaks my heart when someone who grew up with Minecraft as their first game, and then they look at pixel art and they're like, "Oh, those are Minecraft graphics," because it's pixelated. I'm like, "No, you don't understand, no." I know that feeling, but I try to stop myself from just being reactionary and think, well, they're just playing what was given to them when they're young. It's not like they made the wrong decision to be born when Minecraft was huge. You just gotta expose them to other things. Thanks for the follow, Taco Bro. Hello, Mark's Devil. There's a Easter egg Discord member. You're the guy with the Nicolas Cage avatar. First game was Super Mario World, and Mario's missing. I think Mario World was the first Mario game that I got really into. My first console was technically an Atari, because I grew up with people older than me. No, the youngest. So I grew up with an Atari, so I played like Pac-Man and Q*bert and stuff, and Countermeasure, and I did not have E.T. I was not. My parents loved me too much, so I never got a chance to play E.T. and Atari. But I had an NES after that. I just did a lot of watching my brother play NES, but then Super Mario World, I was old enough to like know how to play games on the SNES. So Super Mario World was the first game that I actually just like spent a lot of time playing and actually managed to beat on my own. So I'd say that's like my first game was Mario World. Grandpa had a Pong console. Yes, my grandpa had a Pong console too. And we never found a way to get it to run. It just, something was broken internally and it never ran again. It was like, this was like hardcore Pong. This wasn't TV Pong. This was like a skillus, or what is it? A skilloscope? A skillus? I can never pronounce that word. Like this was not pixelated screen Pong. This was actual beam of light shining on a paper being guided around by moving parts. Like this is hardcore Pong. But we never got it to work. Zelda 2 and Mario 3 are first games. Those are good. Zelda 2 is a very rough first Zelda. I feel like I'm talking too loud into the mic. Okay, what is happening here? Uh-oh. Ooh, now we're getting into radio telemetry. I like it. See, just that little aesthetic change makes this more interesting. So now I feel like, oh, we have like a central communication hub going on here. Nice. You work at a game store where we get kids coming in, Five Nights at Freddy's stuff, literally 5 times a day. It's fascinating way because that sort of game is an opposite audience from its original target audience. You can't even... I know, that is funny how some games get picked up, probably not by the intended audience. I really don't understand why... Oh, what happened? Oh, okay, so this is the emitter, and then this is a receiver. Cool. Oh, wait, so is the wavelength... Oh, they just have to match. I think that's the case. So this transmits to that wavelength, or frequency, whatever I want to say. And, okay, I'm kind of getting it. You have no clue what it was for me. My earliest memories are just of various Amiga games. Amiga, that's interesting to have grown up with that. It's a little more obscure. No idea what actually was first. First game was Pokemon Red. I kind of missed out on the Pokemon thing. I had Pokemon cards, and I loved collecting them just because of how they looked. And I watched the TV show, but I still have never played a Pokemon game. I'm gonna play Pokemon Snap, but I think that's about it. And I'm gonna play Pokemon Go. As much as y'all hate Pokemon Go, I still liked it. I don't really play it anymore. I might start up again once the summer hits. Because in Minnesota, you basically die. You're outside too long with your hands uncovered. Your first games were Tetris and Darkwing Duck, port on the NES. Oh, okay, I was thinking DuckTales, because that was a pretty hard game. I never played the Darkwing Duck one. First 3D game was Ocarina of Time. That's cool. Loved Crash Bandicoot. Grew up PS2, PS3. Used to play Crash Bandicoot. I still have never played a Crash Bandicoot game. I never had a PS1 growing up. So I just don't... Like, it's like when Final Fantasy VII comes up, is that I have no memories attached to Final Fantasy VII. So I just completely don't understand when people are like, you know, they just I mean, I can understand what it's like to love a game that much because like you grew up with it and it's a well-made game and all that. But I just FF7 means nothing to me. I can see how people would like it, but that's it. FF6 though, on the oh my god, this puzzle. FF6 on the SNES, that's my Final Fantasy. That's the one I have all the nostalgia for, and I know the whole story, and I know everything about it. It was not a fun game, I don't think. I just have so many memories from the way it sounded, and the way it looked, and the way it made me feel. Because you know what they say, people may not remember what you looked like, what you were talking about, what you sounded like, what you smelled like, but they will remember how you made them feel. And that goes for video games too. That's why like feelology, you know, is an important thing to study. Because that's what people take away from experiences. Okay, so we got vertical, we got 2 straight bar, and I gotta transmit to that. God, okay, this should be good. Sweet. Then I go over here, and this is 2 curved, inward curved bars. Oh. Oh my god, and then I gotta start over. Okay. What did I do? I was like... it just has to go there. There we go. Okay, let me do this one first. 2 outward curving. Yeah. Fuck! Oh my gosh, so much chat. I like it. You just commissioned a Five Nights at Freddy painting for your sister. That's cool. Which I'm then going to send to Dan TDM, a YouTuber who got her into Five Nights at Freddy's and get him to sign it. That's really a thoughtful gift. Final Fantasy Mystic Quest is your jam? Wow. That's an obscure one. All I remember about that game is that it had really badass battle music, and that it had nothing to do with Final Fantasy as most of us know it. She's only 7 and likes FNAF. What anime made me feel? Well, that's the thing. I'm not an anime person. I'm not anti-anime. I just don't really actively seek it out. I mean, I watched like Dragon Ball Z and Pokemon growing up, but anime isn't something that I really seek out. I mean, I like Miyazaki films. Girl that I was seeing for a while got me into Paranoia Agent, so we would watch that. Paranoia Agent was pretty cool. But then one of my favorite movies was Summer Wars. I really like that. Alright, it's like 8 a.m. Really, you should get to sleep. Love these chill streams. Hope you get time to stream more often. Good night. See you later, Shalog. I went to go get a muffin and suddenly we're fixing your grandma's Wi-Fi. This does look like it. This is what it looks like. Love Paranoia Agent. Nice. And Summer Wars. Come on, Mono. We all know you purposely avoid anime just to troll chat like Vinny. I mean, it's not exclusively anime. Like, I don't even watch TV shows very often. It's not the medium. I mean, it's not the art that I don't care for. It's more of what you need to do in order to experience it, which is like to sit down and have it running and to find it and to get it running through the internet or through streaming or through download. I mean, it's just like too many things. Like, I just rather watch a Twitch stream. Have any animations made me feel. There's some movies that I really like. I know it's sort of becoming, I mean, like Toy Story. If we're talking CG animated stuff, like Toy Story, I really enjoyed. First and the third. The second one I don't really even remember much about, but I really liked the third one, which was exclusively designed to make people who watched the first one cry, and it did a good job. Because that's like one of those feel weak points. I can't think of a clever word for it. You can hit people hard is when you make them remember how far they've come. You can make someone think about what conditions they were born into, what they did when they were young, and to reflect back on how their life has changed and the things that they've left behind. Like that can just hit people straight in the feels, like paralyzing on the floor kind of feels. And that's the kind of technique I think Toy Story 3 was going for, is like, think of all those toys that you left behind and you're moving on and you're abandoning that. It sucked in a good way. Oh, there we go. I figured it out. It only took me a long time. The meme, or did you just meme you posted? It was your first ever Photoshop. Cool. I was just gonna ask, didn't Digimon copy Summer Wars? Because I think it repurposed it. I don't really know anything about Digimon, so I can't say for sure. Original Sailor Moon was your first anime. Soda did both Digimon and Summer Wars. Don't you mean Up? Ha! Yes. CM Masterman. Your first anime was Spirited Away. Still your favorite movie. First anime is SpongeBob. Well, I mean, it's American anime. Like, I thought that one comic was so telling, where it was like two Japanese people talking and they're saying like what things they enjoy, and then one guy comes in and says like, I like this obscure American anime called SpongeBob, and then they're like, oh, you're such a, there's some like American equivalent of like weeb. I mean, all countries seem to have their own kind of conventions when it comes to animation, and they imitate one another. Like a lot of the biggest, from what I've heard, like Miyazaki and people, some of the original creators of Japanese animation often credit Disney for encouraging or for influencing what they ended up doing in animation. Oh, the class of 2017. Okay, yeah, I remember that. Yeah, in the bunker. I think the one that you made, Marks, was the first one that featured me in it. So many people, you know, I'm not the biggest memer, so I end up not really being in meme compilation things, but you put me in there, so that feels cool. All right. I think this puzzle will be the last one I'll do, and then I'll go on to the next game. Next game I would like to try to finish, but depending on how challenging it is. I heard it's short. Thanks for the auto host, Gearomatic and Desert P. I'm totally a memer. I just do it straight faced. That's true. I mean, I'm like a subliminal memer. I don't know. To be honest, in general, I feel anime is more homogenous stylistically than Western animation. I mean, with my limited knowledge of Japanese anime, like as someone who doesn't know much about it, like I look at the stuff that people are all praising and saying is amazing, and it really does blend into me. And I mean, I know people who love it could point out all the differences, but it's like, there seems to be a lot more imitation going on, fewer risks taken stylistically. Maybe that's just the nature of Japanese culture. I don't know. I mean, America is kind of a mixture of a lot of different influences. Okay, so back to video game for a few seconds. So I got outward double wave. What's that gonna? That's gonna immediately fail. So I gotta start by removing these curved pieces. So it means that. Oop. Oh, this is easier than I thought. Okay, so inward curve. How do I transmit that? I don't see any buttons that connect to it. Oh. All right. This wind is really fitting because I'm just imagining a camera shot, like my face, just staring blindly at this, just confused, as wind just blows across my face. Like I just am so confused. I think this is good. Yes. Auto show. Nice. My God. Okay. So I'm just gonna catch up on chat and then I'll switch games. Anime is cartoons. Pokemon Golurk, Braviary, which are loved, are also designed by the same people. So happy to hear you don't draw the lines. Animations, animation are labels, merely localization. Yeah. Oh, another anime that I really liked. Never remember the name. I saw it, let me Google real quick. I saw it because I stopped by the anime club at my university. I was like, I'll give it a shot. Okay, maybe the anime experts in the chat will know this. The name sounded something like blank of Eden, like Day of Eden, something of Eden. And it was, yeah, I think it was just like a movie. Wasn't, oh no, it was a series, yeah. But it played a lot with lighting, like really dramatic, like golden sunlight and just like sparkling particles in the air, all kinds of stuff like that. But the story was this secret cafe it took place in the future. It was a secret cafe that was hosted by a human where robotic servants would secretly sneak out of their homes and would sit down at this cafe and share their stories with one another, talking about their owners. And the kind of the conflict of it all is that there's a very strict laws in this world where these robotic servants could not say anything about their owners. Like, they had the mental capacity to do it, but they would just basically be put to death if they were to say anything about, you know, the secret lives or give an opinion of their owners. So this cafe was set up so that all of these servants could come together and say everything, expose everything. And Time of Eve? Oh, I think that's it. Let me see. Oh, this has got to be it. Yeah, Time of Eve. No, I don't. I thought the style was cool. I mean, it's definitely says anime, but they incorporated some like 3D rendering sorts of effects into it that kept me interested. And I like it when characters are somewhat realistically proportioned. Like when you see a female character and she actually seems like a real like person that experiences things and isn't just this object to look at. Yeah, Time of Eve. It was such a cool series. But I was talking about Bicentennial Man. Wait, I saw that movie too. I have a feeling it's not quite as feelsy as this anime was. Wow, I just typed Bicentennial and I got like parades. I saw Bicentennial Man a long time ago too, but I think it sounds like a similar concept. Robin Williams. I forgot he was in this. Time of Eve is one you've been meaning to watch but haven't. It sounds a lot like Time of Eve. A big old feeling to it. They had a Kickstarter. Really? I didn't know that was through Kickstarter. Was that to continue it? And I've got to watch it again, thanks. You're welcome. Okay, so I'm gonna move on to my next game. Leave you with darkness. Scythian.